Hi, and welcome to this session on what's new in financial management. In this session, I will go through some of the new features, or not just some, but all of the features that are in the financial management area and a few that are in financial reporting area. There's a lot to cover, so I'll first show a few slides on each of the features, so you have them for reference when you get the material. And then I will demo some of the features in a little more detail. So let's just get started. The first feature is an improvement to intercompany journals. In the past, or up until now, it has been possible to auto-send and auto-accept intercompany documents. People have asked that we had the same feature for intercompany journals, so we added that capability, and that requires that you in the receiving company know what journal template and what journal batch to open, so we added those fields. The intercompany setup needed a new page, so we had all of the fields, the ones that were on the company setup, the ones that were in the old intercompany setup. So we created a fully new intercompany setup page that included these two new fields. You turn on, so that means you still have the old setup page and it will be in there in the product, but you can also turn on the new ones, so you will be able to auto accept intercompany journals. So you have to switch on the feature in feature management. The trick is we don't want to take out the old page yet. There will still be two releases where it's in the product. So when you search for intercompany setup, you will still see two pages. When you haven't turned on the new page, you'll get a pop-up that says this is not turned on. And when you have turned on the feature, both of these will take you to the new setup page. So it just looks odd, but everything is okay. For deferrals, it was possible to post into the future. Of course, you could defer income or expenses, but there were no control over deferrals posting. It would have to respect the allowed posting to and from in general ledger setup. But sometimes you want to make sure that you control normal finance transactions and control them through the allow posting to and from, but still allow deferrals posting to be posted into a future date. That could be that you allow for example, in this case, you allow the posting up until year end because you're still closing the old year and you don't want postings in the new year. But if you have deferral postings related to last year for this year, you will still allow them. So now we have two sets of fields, one for the general ledger setup, but also one that makes exceptions for deferrals. And they are found in general ledger setup and in the user setup, where you also find the usual allow posting to and from. Now that you can post into the future, we also added a new option with beginning of next calendar year, because it's likely that you have opened it up for deferrals posting. So we added a new option. We are also going to, in one of the minor releases, to add an option for beginning of next fiscal year, because it might not be coincidental with the calendar year. Then we have another safeguard. In Business Central, you are allowed under certain conditions to delete your GL accounts. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you did a setup and didn't want the GL accounts. The existing field check GL account deletion before and then a date would give you a soft warning and ask you if you are certain that you wanted to delete a GL account. And that was okay for most cases. You get a warning, you get are you really sure? But sometimes you just, you see too many warnings, pop-ups, you just click OK to get rid of it, and then you accidentally delete something. So people asked if we could have a hard stop on GL account deletion. So we added a new option. In here it actually shows it's turned off, but actually by default it's turned on so that you don't accidentally delete a GL account. If you have to delete it, you can turn this off. So now it's possible to delete GL account. We will still respect this field, so you don't just do it. You will still have to balance out the account. It will still have to be without ledgers in an open fiscal year. So we still respect the old way of doing it. It's now just an extra safeguard. We also in the setup, same with what you do for GL accounts. Once you have posted something or once you have created a record, we really don't want to delete it. In the case of general posting setups and VAT posting setups, there can be cases where you create the records and now you have a setup and maybe later you find out you don't want to use it. Or if you're running with our setup, standard setup, and you post a new combination, we will create it for you automatically so you can get moving. And there will actually be a pop-up that says, do you want to add the GL accounts? But sometimes you find out that, yeah, it's nice, but you don't want to use them. So now we added the ability to block combinations that you won't use. And if you do that, they won't be active in the system. But you will still have records in the setup, but it won't bother normal users because they won't see them. In many cases, when you have customers, they are also a vendor to your company. So sometimes you purchase something from them and you also deliver services or goods to them. So it's nice to be able to look up what is the combined balance, or what is the balance for the customer part, what is the balance for the vendor part. And now we made it possible to merge or consolidate customer and vendor balances. That means they will show up in the pages, in the card pages. And they do so by having a shared contact. So if you start out with a new customer, you can go to that automatically created contact and say create as vendor. Or same, if you start with a vendor, you can say create as customer. And then they're linked, which means that when you start posting to them and they have open balances, as you can see here, they will show up in the UI. So you have an idea of what is the total engagement. Now that you have this overview, you sometimes want to make sure that you don't start paying bills if you have outstanding amounts. So what we also do is in payment journals, there's a function for you to net out the balances for vendors and customers that you have combined or consolidated. And that is, it creates the lines for you. It will look up the different balances. It will create the net entries, or the entries that will net out these balances per currency. So you don't accidentally try to mix currencies. And it will create a payment journal for you. If you don't like what you see, you can override it or delete the entries. In this case, I had 3 customer invoices. So it created 3 lines. They were all with the same currency. So maybe I want to lump sum it and then apply it. Or maybe I want to keep it here. But at least we give you the information that you need to net out such balances. And when you're doing documents and journals, sometimes you discover when you do the posting, or maybe even a preview, that something is wrong. An account is missing, a setup is missing, a number series is missing, or maybe it's the GL that is not open with opening dates for a given period. And you would rather that the system told you before you fill in a complete journal and hit the post action and then have to try and find the error. So now you can turn on in GL, you can turn on enable data check. That means that you will be able to have a data check in the background. And for you as a user, you can turn it on and you'll get a notification once the feature is turned on. And then you will have a fact box either in journals or in documents that tell you if something is not correct with the entity that you're working on. Here it was something about posting date or dimension values that were blocked. In the journal, it was something that it wasn't balanced, the journal, so I wouldn't be able to post it anyway. But now, if I look to the right in my screen, I can see it already when I've typed in something. When you send out invoices, normally we would look up the bank account information that you have in your company information and send it out in print in many of our Word reports. We have taken the bank account information that you have in company information. That is okay if you're only doing domestic trades, but in many cases you have a bank account either for select customers, or you have different bank accounts for different currencies. So now you will be able to, on the bank account card, to specify that a given bank account is the default one to pick for documents for a given currency. And as you will see in the demo in a few seconds, you can change it per document. And you will also be able to, if you get a new bank account while you still have outstanding amounts, to go into a posted document and change the bank account. So you're not blocked when you write out or rewrite or reprint the invoice. So that's the update here. Finding documents when somebody calls you or you're looking for a specific document has been a bit tricky. Not tricky, it was there in the product, but now we made it a more prominent feature. We put it on role centers. On all role centers there's a find entries action, and there's a shortcut for it that will pop up a form that allows you to search for documents, customers and vendors, or contacts in general, and item references like serial and lot numbers. So that experience of finding documents has become a lot more easy and a lot more efficient. Then there are a few things that are not released here or the beginning of April. They will come in either the first or the second release, or maybe at least in one of the minor releases in this wave. One of them is the ability to use different posting groups for payables and receivables. Today, if you have to do it and you want to post an invoice to a different set of accounts, like a different group of receivables, or the sales account should be something else, you would use a different posting group. And what you would do is you will go to the master entity, like the customer card, and change the posting group, then go back, post the document that was special, and then you go back and change the master data again. There's no need for all of these steps. So we are going to build in a feature that allows you per document to change the posting groups if you have allowed the system to do this. And that will be in sales and receivables and purchase and payables, and also in service management. And now that you have different posting groups, you could have created an invoice with one posting group and a credit memo with a different posting groups. And obviously, if you try to apply them, we make sure that the accounts used, the receivables and payables account, like the payables if it's vendors and receivables if it's customers, that the receivables and payables accounts for these posting groups are netted out, so that when you apply these different posting group documents, that you don't have any amounts hanging. And when you do vendor payments, you will also be able to select payments for document with a specific posting group. Another thing that we're going to release is the adjust currency exchange rate batch job. It's a batch job where you specify that you have new or usually period end currency exchange rate, and you want to update your receivables, payables, and bank accounts. And it was the job that you could run, but you wouldn't have a preview, so we're going to add that. You would not be able to specify whether you wanted a one sum for all of the currencies or per currency or per detailed entry, so that you could trace it. If you have, for example, the same receivables is used for different customers or customer groups, you can now specify, you will be able to specify that you want details, and then it's easier to trace the individual groups. You will also be able to manage the dimensions that get posted when you do this batch job. You can either take it from the source document, take it from the the unrealized gains and loss accounts that they are posted to. So you take it from there, or you can say that you don't want dimensions in your adjustment entries. So it's up to you. And the part where we call it extensible is because partners will be able to, or you, if you want to customize it, you will be able to extend it to behave differently if you have a different way of managing the currency exchange rate adjustments. Before I do the demo, there are a few features coming in reporting, and reporting for finance is account schedules. So we have improved that. We are supporting 15 columns in the overview. You can use account categories for a filter in totaling. You can control how zeros are printed in the report. We make sure that when you say that you want to skip 0 lines, that we still keep the headers, because they're obviously 0 lines, they're just headers. But you still want to see them because they contain the structure of your account schedule. When you have the overview, you'll be able to see the lines that you have set as do not show. So it's not just at the sign time that you see them, but also when you actually look at the numbers in the overview. And then there was a request that you created account schedules in one company, but you actually want to use it in multiple companies, or if you're a consultant, you want to create a standard set of account schedules. And we made it a little easier to import and export it. It still uses the Rapid Start packages or configuration packages, but it's in the list of account schedules, so you don't have to create your own packages and start from there. Then I have a few slides just to show it before I demo, but maybe we can just skip the demo. You will have 12 columns. You'll be able to say, show all lines. You'll be able to use account categories. And you'll be able to control, in the request page, you can specify how you want to, like we are skipping 0 lines here. But the currency symbol, whether you want it or not, and the behavior of empty amounts or zeros. And that is for rows that we control this. Sometimes you have columns that are calculated. It could be a variance in percentages. It could be just any number where you calculate it, scale it somehow, a KPI, and you don't want currency symbol in it, even though you want it for the row as such. So we added to the column layout, we added the ability to hide it for a specific column, but that will hide it for the full column. Then we have a new capability that Kenny is introducing in a session called Introducing Excel Layouts for Business Central. So he'll go more in depth with how it works. But basically, we have taken what we released last wave, where we gave you the option to export report dataset as raw data in Excel. So you would get a data sheet with all the data that was in a report, in a given report, including some metadata on how the printed report would handle the data. Not always looking nice, but it had the data that went into the report. Now you have the ability for a given report to say that you, as default, you want an Excel spreadsheet instead. the way that you create it is you export that raw data, you create your report, and bring that report back in as a layout for that report, for the report in Business Central. And you can use it if the data set that you get out is okay for your purpose. Usually you want to do it if a user needs to interact a bit with the data, because you cannot do that in print. And of course, because you have to set it as a default, you cannot switch. That will come in a later release. You have to use it where the paper copy is not a priority. But of course, you can always print out Excel spreadsheets. But I will leave the details to Kenny's session on the introducing of this feature. Let's just take a few glimpses on the features in the product. The first thing we could go and do, I'll just show you what the setup is, so you know where to find it. The setup for the blocking of GL accounts is found in the GL setup. I put in a date, but I also said that I don't want any GL accounts to be deleted. And if I go into my chart of accounts, let me see if I can find it there. I have an account, job sales. I haven't posted anything. It's not because I've balanced it out. I haven't used it. So ideally, I should be able to delete it. But if I do it, I get this information. But it also tells me that we have blocked it completely. And you need to go to GL setup and set the value to yes before you can move on. And then you will be able to delete it, assuming that you haven't posted in a open fiscal year, that the account is balanced out, and that all entries, at least we will tell you, that all entries are older than the date that were in the check GL account before deletion date, also in the GL setup. For deferrals, we have for the templates, I've created a few. You have a new option to say that you want to post beginning of next calendar year. So in this case, I want to split it up, either expenses or revenue, in 3 periods. And I'm specifying in the description that I want to print out the month and year. So I could go, so that's setting up the template. Then I can go to General Journal. And in here, let's say I'm posting something at the end of the year, but like it could be prepaid rent. But it's actually for the first quarter, so I want to defer it. It's 27,000. I'm splitting it up in 3. And I'm using the deferrals template that had the post to next year. And one way of finding out that it does what it should do is you can use posting preview. You can look up the entries, and we can see that it has been deferred to, I'll just expand this a bit. You can see that it has been deferred to January in the next year. Another way of checking your deferral entries is that if you look up here and use the assist button, it will look up what is being posted for this deferral, for this line. So there are 2 ways of checking your data. Then we have the consolidating customers and vendors. I have created a new customer called Mix and Merge. And in there, I went to the contact. When you create a customer, you automatically create a contact. So you can go into the contact and say action, function, and create as. Now I already did it, but in here I would, if it was a completely new one, I would be able to create that as a vendor. And the way that I can see that it has been done is we can go to the vendors and find the same, but I can also see that the contact relation is multiple. if I go in here, I can also see that I have a balance for my customer. There are some, I think it's 3 invoices. They're there. And I have a balance for this business relation set up as a vendor. So apparently I purchased quite a lot from this vendor. So if at the end of a period, I probably want to make sure that I don't pay 755,000 because they also owe me 54,000. So it should only be around 700. Depending on what your business relation is, you would probably want to balance it out. And that happens in payment journals. I'll pick this one. So at a given date, if you want to, probably at a period end, but any date will work, you will be able to prepare your payment journal and net out these consolidated or linked customers and vendors. It will set up, you need to put in a document number, a date. There's also an on hold field where you can type in a 3-character code, and that will make sure that it's not used in suggest vendor payments, or if you try to pay it, you'll get a warning. You're creating this payment journal, and you want to make sure that these open entries are not accidentally paid before you get to post this journal. So that's why you can put it in. You can put any code, or if you use a blank, they will still be open to be paid in other journals. So let's just create these. So if we go and look, I had a 755 outstanding to my vendor, but I also had 54 as a customer, and I want to balance that out against the vendor. So the vendor has been balanced out with these, and the customer has been balanced out with the 3 invoices I have. If I only want to keep one amount, I can delete the lines and of course just type in one amount for the customer. If I didn't have in this example, if I had different currencies, it would balance out the 2 different balances per currency so that you don't mix and match currencies. For the printing of invoices, if you go to bank accounts, if we pick this one, you can see it's a US dollar. Actually, it's here. Currency code is US dollar. It's not blank. I'm in a UK company, so it's British pound, but I've set up a bank account in US dollar. And up here in the header, I can specify that if I have documents with US dollar, I want to use this bank account for print, or the one that you actually pick. So if I have a document, sales invoice, for example, this one, you can see that down here, where we have US dollar, it has picked the US dollar bank. If I decided that I would rather have it in British pound, which is blank in this company, it would pick the checking account, which is the normal default account. And then it will get printed to the invoice when I print it out, assuming that I pick that the invoice contains that information, of course. The last few things I want to show is account schedules. And I'll just zoom in so you can see a little more of my data, even though I have to scroll a bit. I've created an income statement, and my income statement is something that also contains in the rows, maybe I have a subheader, maybe information for me when I look at it as a controller. I also have some interim calculations, like a formula for something, contribution margin or something else. And I specify that I don't want to see it when I print it out. If I print out a report for the board of directors or anything, it's just for my own information. So these 2 lines really shouldn't be seen in print. In the overview, because I have selected a column layout with, I call it 12 months, it actually is 12 months. You can see January up until December. And then I have a total account, and because I just like to have a blank at the end, it actually has 14 accounts. And we support 15 accounts, so you can also do some variants to last year and whatnot. So it makes it easier, so I don't have to print it out or anything, or export it to Excel or whatever I do. I can see it here. I had these lines. It says income statement, and if I go down below here after cost, there's nothing here. But I had these extra lines, and I can now say that I want to see them. And the lines that were set to show equals no are also shown in the overview. So if I'm creating the account schedules, it's easier to troubleshoot when I can see all the lines. And we'll just go back. We have a trial balance here. It's a very simple one, but instead of using posting accounts or total accounts, I'm using account categories as the filtering option. So in my chart of accounts, I have of course added the account categories, and I'm now using that as a filter in my report. So let's just look at how it looks like before we go into the detail on how you set up some of the parameters. This one. So this one looks okay. It was very simple, but it gives you numbers from your chart of accounts based on filtering on account categories. If we go back to the trial balance, the income statement. This one, when I print it out, let's just do a print. I'll just do for this year. I have some options, but let's just see how it looks like without these options used. So I have some numbers. In the first, this is a printed report. We only support 5 in the 5 columns in the printed report. It has some numbers. I don't see the zeros; they're blank. I don't have a currency symbol in it, so I can try and add that. It also had some lines where there were no content at all. But let's do something about the currency symbol first. So we'll look at that. And now you have a currency symbol. So if you're used to currency symbols, maybe not in a trial balance by period, but in other reports, you can add it. We still had some numbers that were left blank. It's sometimes confusing to see, especially if you have a lot of columns. In that case, I would probably want to see a 0 for empty amounts. So let's just add that. And now it's a lot easier to see the columns when you have a sparse data set. As you can see, maybe it's not obvious, but you saw that I picked the job sales applied account before and there was nothing in it. So this line is completely blank. I'm not sure about the other ones, but they look blank to me, at least in the first 5 months. It would be nice to condense the report and get rid of those. But of course, when I say get rid of empty lines, I still want to keep the structure of it. So when we do that, you can see I still keep the header, like the income, so I can see the income part, the cost of goods sold part, and the expenses part also, but I get rid of the empty lines. So we've added more capabilities to get some nicer account schedules report out in print. As I said, I will leave the Excel report for Kenny's session. Do go and check it out. It gives you even more capabilities in supplement to using account schedules. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching this session on What's New in Financial Management. I hope you find things that you want to go and check out and start using. Thank you.